Let's do it. Alrighty, here we go. My name is Marty Fox from WHITEFOX. Now, here's the deal.
Welcome to another episode of With the Fox. My name is Shamini Rajarethnam. I'm joined, of course, by our founder, CEO, Marty Fox. Good to see you. Looking fresh.
I know, fresh back from the Gold Coast.
Fresh back from the Gold Coast.
No wonder. Good tan.
And
Bad tan.
Talking about looking,
Shouldn't be tanning.
we can't talk about skin too much in front of this person, Marty, because she knows everything there is to know about skin. And I talk about our guest today. We're very excited to have on the CEO of Rationale Skincare, Shamini Rajarethnam. Got that right?
Got it right. I'm
It's
so
not bad.
proud.
I get that
Proud
right.
of you.
I'm very happy with that. Just wait till I get to your husband's.
What's his name?
Ethan Didascalou.
Didascalou.
We didn't double barrel the kids, so it's
Yeah,
fine.
imagine that. Have you like filling out those forms?
They'd be great at spelling.
Oh, my God.
They'd be great at it.
Shamini, so happy to have you on here. One of the youngest female CEOs in Australia, one of only 17% of CEOs in Australia who are female, so it's great to have a perspective like yourself, but also such an interesting story because you're someone who rose to CEO in only a few years in the business.
Yep.
And you also worked in kind of every facet of the business, so you have this unbelievable understanding of it, and I think there's just so much to talk about when it comes to like a business like yours, the development of it and where it's going next, because like WHITEFOX, you know, looking internationally, and I know you've already done some stuff internationally, including the US.
Yeah.
But welcome
He's done his research.
from the very start. And by the way, I should say as well, her husband is the founder and owner of July
Luggage,
Oh,
suitcases.
really?
Yeah.
Powerful family.
How good is that?
So the power dynamic is all over the place.
Jeez.
It used to be mine. It's not anymore.
Hey, two very good-looking brands.
Incredible.
Yeah.
And I'm sure
July,
that was
very,
one of the
very
questions. We'll talk about the leaning of each other on, you know, I guess each other's businesses and the acumen that comes along with that. But for you, just in general,
Who's looking after the kids? Like,
Yeah.
busy house.
Yeah. Very
that's what we
busy
just talked
house.
about. How did
That's why I was late, because I had to do the drop-off, because power dynamic has shifted now.
Hey, school back today?
Yesterday, our kinder started today.
Yeah, okay.
So,
Ours went back today as well.
yeah,
it's
so
great.
it was
It's-
a
Thank
huge
God.
thing.
Three people sitting here with a 7 or 6-year-old and a 4-year-old, but you two have gone the third child. I don't know why you thought.
Hey, how good's the third?
She's my favourite.
Yeah, no,
Absolute
literally.
favourite, but she's, 9 months, so she's not talking, she's doing what I asked, she's sleeping.
Perfect.
Do what you
But
want.
she's absolute favourite, absolute favourite.
Hey, the other two are going to see this one day.
One day, but old enough for me to say favourite daughter, favourite son,
gone.
favourite
It's
baby,
gone.
maybe.
So you're right. So originally from Singapore.
Yes.
What brought you here? Was it just family? Or was it opportunity? Was it studying?
I mean, we were always really fortunate. Studies, growing up in a very Asian sort of centric country, parents always valued that. So we were given the opportunity to study overseas. My sister was actually studying in Australia. I'm the youngest of 3. That's why I think the third is the best one. My brother was in the States, but I was actually very close to my grandmother, and my grandmother was in Singapore, and just being able to fly back. So it was almost the ease of, it was an 8-hour flight, it was 2-hour difference, 3-hour difference. So I chose to come here, and we had family here in Canberra. My mum's, my aunties and my cousins were here. So we came here. And
Did you go to
studied.
Canberra?
No.
Lucky.
To Melbourne.
It could
Like-
be very different.
The caravan parks there were good, but...
So how old were you when you came to Australia?
So I finished our version of high school, which was, I was 16, and then we came here and I did a year of foundation at Trinity College, and then I went to uni, to Melbourne Uni. And so it was just, it was nice sort of having my sister here. My parents would come fairly often. I would go back fairly often.
What did you study?
I did a Bachelor of Arts in Linguistics, so in sociolinguistics and linguistics, and then very quickly realised I couldn't really do much with it. And then I was working all through university. I don't know if you guys might remember Bettina Liano back in the day.
I was going to ask you. I saw you worked there. I was going to
Yeah.
ask you.
How good were Bettina Liano jeans?
They were so good.
They were the
So good.
brand.
So-
Oh, isn't Bettina Liano connected with Dee's auntie? So my personal trainer
Right.
and his best friend, my brother's best mate,
Yeah.
is Bettina Liano's auntie.
Right, which one?
DeAndre, Ricks.
Oh, no, I don't know. I mean, the whole family worked in that business.
Yeah.
Cousins and everybody. Yeah, and like Kathy and
Roy.
Bianca and all of them. But so I worked. With
Did
her
you work
for
on Chapel
years
Street
and
or in the
years.
city?
I worked everywhere because I was with her for like years on the shop floor as at uni, and some of my best friends have come from Bettina's. Shout out to the Bettina girls. And then I worked at head office for a really long time for her, and she was going through that period of, she had voluntary administration, and that was the time I had to sort of exit. But that was the reason why I actually ended up doing a second degree, a master's in commerce in marketing, because I really loved commerce. I really loved business, and you only really get that when you're working, and you really understand what you want to be doing.
So what was it like being in a business that was going through administration and then getting back into uni to actually learn about the fundamentals of?
So the timing sort of happened the other way around. I went to uni to understand and to learn that when she was at the height of what she was doing.
Gotcha.
So that was really good. But it also taught, I was working for her full time. I'd finish at 6. I'd, take the tram down at 6:15, do like 6:15 to 9:15 classes. Back then the masters used to be late at night. I don't know why. So it taught you like a level of resilience, and you just got to, do the work sort of thing. And when I got into the head office, sort of again started from the bottom and worked my way up. But Tina at that time didn't really believe in online as well. So I remember going to her. We were sitting in like a Monday board meeting, and this is so long ago now. And she had a Chapel Street store. She had all her stores. They were all really well refurbished and renovated. And I said, give me some cash to do an online store. And she was like, no. And I was like, honestly, like, give me $7,000. Let me build a website. I had to go down and negotiate with the warehouse manager to be like, give me a set of jeans. And I had like, the IKEA, what is it? The bloody...
Oh, the hanging thing?
Oh, yeah. The little, the cubes.
Yes.
Everybody has one when you're
Yes.
like 18 or something.
Of course you do.
Move into your new house. And so I bought one of them, put them behind my desk and put jeans in there. But I would literally go and barter for like, come on, his name was Bart in the warehouse. I was like...
Barter with Bart.
I bartered with Bart
That's
hard.
hilarious.
I was like, come on, just give me, like 3 sizes of this and, da-da-da. Anyway, fast forward a couple of months and it really, it started to generate some money, and it started to become what we considered like a T-tier store and a B-tier store, and we moved up, and suddenly I had a bit of a seat at the table, and so my role then shifted into digital marketing, and so that was sort of...
For Bottanigliano.
So she did believe...
She had a Flash player website, which was very impressive.
Hey, so just before we go further, what was the percentage of sales generated through your online store versus the actual stores?
Oh my gosh, like when I started, it would have been like 2%. It was nothing. It was nothing. Before I even started, it was 0 because she literally didn't have an e-commerce store. And then it started sort of gaining a little bit of market share within the internal portfolio. It probably would have gotten to 10%, and something where we then ended up building out a proper team and there was a proper strategy. Like I remember doing street style, which I would get girls from the store to wear the clothes, go outside, shoot them, like with whatever camera I had, and then
But this is so early days in
MailChimp.
e-com, I imagine, because nowadays it's so transactional in the sense that you can buy, you can return, it all happens very quickly.
Yeah.
If anything, it happens in reverse. They'll have an online store, and if it does well,
Yes.
then they'll
go
get
to
the physical.
retail.
That's
Yeah,
right. But so
absolutely.
how did you deal with because jeans are quite a lot of people are on their
Yeah.
I'd imagine you had a lot of women who just know their size and they would buy versus like
this was,
new.
the brand was really strong. So the brand awareness was really strong. This was more about selling different colors of different versions of
Sure.
things. So that was easy for me to do. I wasn't selling anything else. Like I wasn't selling clothes as much. I was only selling jeans, really. Like that was 98% of what we were selling online. But it was-
Worldwide or?
Oh, in Australia at that stage. This is now going back, 2007, 2008. Like it was quite a long time ago. But it was more so just being able to sit at that table and tell her and, Chris at that stage, give me some money to do this as well. And I learned so much. And I think the biggest thing I learned is the friendships that I had from there. I've worked with a number of them. I brought them into the Rationale business because, when it's like being in the trenches, you've gone to war, like it wasn't a very healthy work culture by any means. But
you've got
people
trust
really
equity
good.
with these people, which
Absolutely.
is key.
So important. You trust them to have your back. You trust them to sort of get in with you and, fight the good fight effectively. There's nothing like
it's
that.
always a handful. It's like one or two. Like for me, I've got, Lana Samuels that's been here from the very beginning,
Yeah.
Mike DiCasio. They're people that have seen so many rocky moments, highs, lows, but they're still there.
Yeah.
And you know that, well, anything that comes in the future,
have your back.
they've got your back.
Yeah.
And it actually empowers you as the CEO to know, okay, I don't have to. I've got this saying, I like to inspect what I expect. Mm-hmm. But with these two people, I actually don't have to inspect. Mm-hmm. I inspect everything else.
Yeah.
But for those two people, I know that it is like a a replica of my thinking.
Yeah. And I think, that you relate to trust in two different ways. You either are the sort of person that gives your trust and people erode it, or, the other way, which you have to build up the trust for you to give, any sort
I'm the other one. I'll trust you.
Yeah.
And then if I get burnt, I'll see you later.
And I think you have to operate from a level of trust, right? When you're in the roles that you are in, you don't have the time, you don't have the opportunity or the time to actually build up that trust again. So if you're building out a team or whatever that is, you have to delegate. You have to be able to trust somebody to do the right thing. And so to me, I've always operated in that sense. And I think, the people that you work with do appreciate that sort of flow of that trust equity that you're talking about as
Absolutely.
well. Yeah.
So you're Bettina, things are good, but you've learned a lot.
Yeah.
And now it's time for a shift. What sort of pushed you out of Bettina and into Rationale?
It was actually my sister. I think
So how long ago was this?
This was 2011 that
So 2011 you went from there into Rationale.
To Rationale. And how that sort of happened was my sister actually found this ad online. It was for PR and marketing coordinator. And she was like, just go for it. And I was like, I am done with small businesses. Like, I just can't do it anymore. I want to go into a big corporation, blah, blah, blah. I'm not that person.
And was Rationale in 2011 a big corporation?
No, it was tiny. It was 7 people, 8 people. And she said,
and at the time, how many stores?
0. So this is really interesting. We were B2B business. So instead of a B2C direct, we were only selling to doctors. And that was the only form of revenue.
Great to build credibility, though.
Great, because you have a doctor prescribing the product. Who better than a dermatologist to tell you to use skincare, right? So she said, just go. And I went and I met with Richard, the founder of the business, as well as my then manager. And for me, it's about relationship. It's about people. It's about trust. And I was just so annoyed because I really liked them. I liked the vision. I liked what they stood for. And at that time, my partner, who's now my husband, I think I actually had an opportunity to work for a big sort of, it was like Sportsnet or something. And I was like, I can sell anything, And he's like, do you really want to be selling that? And I was like, okay.
And at this time, can you disclose what the company turnover was back when you were doing these interviews?
Oh, my gosh. It was for Rationale.
Yeah.
It would have been below 1 mil. Like, it's not that anymore, obviously. But it was non-existent. And the reason why they were looking for a PR and marketing coordinator was to bring the online element into the fold, because they were going to
So this was a big pivot. So to go away from B2B and now go B2C.
Yeah. And if you also think about it, the needs of a B2B business and, doctors going, we're the only ones that are selling this. Now this is going to be available to everybody. It was a huge shift.
And did they sort of have a bit of backlash?
Yeah, so we had to transform the whole business. So it was a wholesale business traditionally. And the really hard thing about a wholesale business is once you sell the product, they can do whatever they want with it. And
question though, it's got a very sophisticated aesthetic.
Yeah.
So when you were B2B, it wasn't there.
So that aesthetic that you see now, that's had sort of 2 iterations to where it is as well. So
and when it was wholesale, it was just plain Jane.
It was very medical. It was very medical. It was in serum amber bottles. It had titles that I didn't even know how to pronounce Rationale to hide.
Last name.
Exactly. And I couldn't even pronounce it. So can you imagine? And it was very like rep. It was a rep business. It was, you go out, you sell product. How many, at the end of the month, I remember.
Sales driven.
The first time I was sitting there,
effectively.
Exactly.
Everybody was like,
Your
okay,
favourite
let's
pick
up the phone and call. And like, what are we doing? Like, why was everybody like picking up the phone to call, doctors to get that last sort of order? Because it's how much you sold, right? And the issue with that is Richard is a visionary, and I think all founders are. Marty, you have to be as well to get the business to a certain point. He wanted to make sure that the brand was paramount, so that brand guardianship was really important. So we embarked on this journey of changing the model into an agency model, which is a consignment model, where we own the stock until exchange of cash happens. But that's a huge cash outlay because we're putting product into somebody's shelf sort of sitting there. But we had to create a model where it was really beneficial for a doctor to sign up with us, which is, you do what you do best, sell the product. Don't worry about stock takes. Don't worry about buying the product. We'll give you the training. We'll give you the samples. We'll give you the professional products, the testers, all for free. Just sell the product. Do what you do best. So that was really different at that time. It still is, but it was a huge setup cost for us. So we would also put in a POS machine into their practices so that we could see in real time the stock and we could, manage their stock levels as well.
We've jumped ahead here because you join as a PR and marketing coordinator.
Yeah.
So
it's not my fault. He keeps on taking us off course.
He's on it. That's what he does. I'm going to steer the ship back because otherwise I want to go a little bit
more linear.
If we go tangential, we're going to be off.
Okay.
But so you join a PR. What did you notice when you came in? Because as you said, small business.
It was a family-run business. Yeah. It was 9 people. There was like a part-time bookkeeper. There was Kate who would do reception and she would sell product. There was
based where?
We were all in Clifton Hill. Okay. So we were actually working out of a dermatology clinic and we were partnering with them. Everything, there was an art director as well and a brand manager. So it was very bare bones. But, I think back to a time when the team is quite small, it's also really nice when the team is really small because all of you are, hands in.
It's like being
how many now?
We're now a business of 180. But that we have retail as well. So it's probably half and half now, retail staff and head office is 90, but the business again has transformed to other parts as well. So I think, you sort of mentioned, Shira, around doing everything in the business. And, I was young, you work really hard, you want to be there, you're working 12-hour days, 15-hour days. It doesn't matter because you have this passion of, I want to see this brand succeed. And because the business was so small, if people went away, they'd be like, oh, who's going to do payroll? I'm like, I guess I can push a button on my job or whatever it is. How
did they get that sort of buy-in from you?
I think part of it is personality. My personality is one team, one dream. Like, I like working with people. I like the synergy of people. I'm not... my husband and I are very different. He's an entrepreneur. He wants to be going out on his own, not going out on his own, but he has that chutzpah to do that. I like being in a team. I like being in the trenches. I like having a problem with people to solve. I genuinely liked the people I was working with. So you don't want to let anybody down because you don't want it to be, Joanne has gone off for a holiday and who's going to do her job? You're like, I've got your back, Joanne, kind of scenario. And so just through the business shifting, I had to sort of lean into different roles. And, I think the formative part of where things sort of shifted was we were about to launch this new agency model and the business manager at that time ended up leaving. So she was probably like the general manager. But Richard...
Where did she go?
She left for another opportunity. But, I mean, you can speculate. I think things were getting a little bit dicey at that time in terms of her experience probably didn't match what was needed in the business. But Richard had fallen really, really sick and he was in hospital. So
the founder.
His partner, the founder of the business. And
did he get better?
He did. It's a happy ending.
That's right.
So
what you'll know with me is I'll always just want a little bit more.
Okay. Oh, I can tell.
I can tell.
Yeah.
So
yeah. He's still in the business now. We work really well. We've been, working side by side for 13 years. And it's never been a straight road, right? We've learned to
Was he struggling seeing the change?
No, not at all, because he's a visionary. Like, he wants something. Richard is 99.9% right about all of the things that he wants to achieve in the business. It's more a timing aspect. And in the later years when I've worked with him, he wants to build a huge, come one, come all sort of head office out in this beautiful, idyllic place. He found the place. He's like, yep, here, Sham, build it.
Where was the place?
Great. In Kyneton, in the Macedon Range. It's beautiful, right? It's now done. But, in 2016, it wasn't done. Yeah, so we've been there for 2 years. But at that time, so he's
from
moved
Clifton
on.
Hill to Kyneton.
Well, we came to Richmond. We were in Cremorne for a little bit, and then we outgrew what we needed here. And so he didn't want to be next to a panel beater.
Does everyone have to drive out to Kyneton, though?
We have a flexible work. So there is a mandate of 5 days a week, depending on what your role is. You've got to be there. 5 days a fortnight. Sorry.
Oh, that's not bad.
And I think it's really important to have people to come together as well.
It's like a ranch.
It is. It's beautiful. It's like sprawling, Crabtree. It's beautiful. It's very, very, very stunning. But it's still a commute, for people who need to get there. So I think Shira's going to take me back on course.
It's great.
What's Shira going to do?
I love going off piece. It's so fun.
We've missed this whole show.
Oh my gosh.
No, we've missed nothing.
So, no.
We've missed nothing.
Yes, I remember. So Richard was in the hospital and we had this was a timeline that couldn't be
He didn't have pericarditis, did he?
No, he did not. I think he had sepsis. He had something very intense and he had to be hospitalized. But we had to deliver this new agency model, right? Because we had contracts, we had stock. And then the business manager had left. And again, I don't know if it was because I was
this your opening?
This was sort of the genesis of how I was able to sort of move through the business, but they needed somebody to sort of lead and help with the rollout of...
How old were you at the time?
I don't know. I was,
mid-20s?
Mid-20s.
Mid-20s.
Yeah, absolutely. And mid to late 20s, I would say. And because I was the digital marketing manager at that time, I think I just assumed I could work the POS machine and software and hardware. I was like, yeah, I can do this. It's not that hard. I can read a contract and understand what we're doing. And it was part of discussions because the business was so small. So we knew what we were trying to achieve. So I sort of took over that. And, the happy story is that we ended up launching it with a lot of grief in between. But the hardest part wasn't the software and the hardware. The hardest part was how do you pitch to the doctors that this huge model was changing, right? And the commission structure was changing, or what they thought of the commission structure was changing. And so, that was your first lesson of bringing people on the journey and being able to pitch and tell a
Did you
story.
lose a lot of doctors?
We did, in the sense of we had probably 200 wholesalers, but we wanted 50 really good ones because, you spend a lot of time. So we ended up with 50. And now we're probably... we're sitting in probably 100 right now, but the business it's grown quite a fair bit as well. But for us, we wanted quality of the people that we were partnering with because of how much we were investing in each business.
And you were 100% wholesale and you were 0% retail.
Exactly.
And fast forward to now, what's that percentage?
So now we've got an omni-channel distribution, which it's pretty much a third of each, but we've also now launched our own flagships. So Richard, again, his vision was, how do you provide the best and the ultimate Rationale experience? And a doctor can't do that because they're time poor. Online, you can't really replicate that because it's such a personal experience that we have. So we were the conduit.
Can I step in here?
Your 3 channels.
Can I step in here with a personal anecdote? Because I think this speaks volumes for Rationale. So I've got a wife who skincare is everything. And when I got together with her, I was shocked at how much she did each day, every single day.
Yeah.
And I used to laugh. I'm like, that's a lot of work for your face. Anyway, cut to a few years later, and she says to me, she goes, hey, can you go pick up some stuff for me? It's from a place called Rationale. And I was like...
So I need to thank you. You're a customer.
So I go to this store and I walk in, and what immediately caught me, aesthetically, very pleasing, minimal.
Yeah.
But okay, what's going on? It's quite easy. The women there were on point.
Yeah.
What do you need? I think they see a lot of people like myself come in like a deer in the headlights, like, what are you looking for, sir?
Let's just guide him through this process.
And she was totally the number 1, the number 6, and the number 3, the serum and this, that, and the other. Facial, she just said, was next level. But it was just, I can see, because this is... I've heard you say this before on other podcasts you've been on, that it's a very busy space, skincare.
Yeah.
So how do you stand out?
Yeah.
You're already coming from a good place because you've got this, as you said, the medical background. So it's trusted.
Advocacy.
It's not just like someone coming out and knowing we've got a skincare brand. There's already that there. But I could see immediately the appeal. Aesthetically pleasing. The stores are great.
I think, at the end of the day, and this is what I say to the team, we can do all the fancy, it can be really beautiful. For us, customer experience is paramount, that client experience, we're not there for quantity of people. Like, we want to have a long-term relationship with this person because it's an investment into your skin. You're not spending $25 and then you're like, if it doesn't work, whatever, right? It's a huge
Yes,
investment.
the first time I paid for my skincare, I was like, what?
and that comes down to it's the research that goes into it as well. But for me, the proof is in the pudding. So it doesn't matter how much we talk about it. We need you to try it. We need you to see.
Selling a house.
Exactly. We need you to have this trust. We're never going to sell you all 6 at once. If anything, we'll tell you, hold on, you need to start on this and this. We need you to come back, see us, make sure you're comfortable and we're seeing the changes that you need to see in your skin. Then we'll add XYZ. It might take 3 years to get you to that point. It might take a year. Yeah. But for us, that's the client that we want.
Yes.
And I think in this space, when it's so busy, it's a $180 billion industry, personal care. It is so easy to get distracted by the shiny baubles. And I have to be really disciplined about saying no. And I think what defines us is what we say no to in the end, because there's so much competition, and there is, we're fighting or competing in 3 different very unique spaces. We have a B2B business where people are now coming into our space and selling doctors other things. We are, going direct to clients, and that takes a huge amount of effort, a huge amount of capital to be able to build a beautiful place, but make people come back, retain them. And then you've got online, which is the busiest space, right? But it's a brand discovery for us. So you need to put in the effort into there so that you can filter into the other 2 channels. So it's about how do you get an ecosystem that works very conducively and synergistically together. That's really, really hard. I cannot really think of another brand that sells in these 3 spaces and does it well. So that is our unique point. We have the doctors, we have our own spaces, and we have online. And we also have treatments, like we have service.
Yes.
So the service element to us is really, really high. And when we first started, Toorak was actually our first store that we opened in 2013. And I came, because from Bettina, I came from a retail background. So Richard was like, you could set this up. I'm like, sure. After like a year, I'm like, I'm actually not good at this anymore. I think I love retail. So I think anybody who's from retail has a retail background. There's something in there about them that, they know how to make a connection with people.
Very quickly.
Sorry, was this store always practitioner as well? Because
no, so that we bought, we leased it, but that was our very first Rationale clinic. So it's a little bit more dated compared to, let's say, our Armadale store, but we've got doctors all around here. And what's quite interesting is our doctors that have been here for a really long time, sometimes they will send their patients to our flagship to get treatments because...
Sorry, but I mean, as in you've got product, but you've also got facials and treatments, which now you've moved from just selling products to actually having the practitioners... Right? That's something new as well.
That's new when we started our own sort of stores, because how do you have the full experience, right? And our facials don't just make you feel good. You actually walk out and there's a difference, there's no downtime, but we do use, ultrasound and lights and all these different machinery things as well. But I remember our very first store, for the longest time, I would sign off on the person that would start treating somebody, because we had such a high standard. We didn't just have 4 weeks, you learn about the product, you do this, and then you start selling. There was a huge investment on our part. It was probably a 3-month period where they're effectively not making money for us. But until I felt that you were ready to start serving a client, you were doing paperwork, or you were doing something in the background. So today we still uphold those levels of service, because we want the girls, you have potentially a 25-year-old or 30-year-old selling product to a 50, 60-year-old. That dynamic has to be respected.
Well, that level of intensity within that retail setting is very similar, and there's a lot of synergies behind and open for inspection of a luxury property.
Yeah.
There's elements
How do you trust your
correct
beautiful person who's standing there, who's probably never owned a property like that?
Correct.
How do they
connect?
How do they connect? And
there's certain things that they need to hit. There's certain things that they need to mention,
absolutely,
which will automatically build confidence in that customer's mind for the person they're standing in front of. There's certain things that they can say and do that will make them feel comfortable that they actually are a professional in that field and they know what they're talking about.
Exactly.
Training.
It's that authority, right? It's like, it doesn't matter. And my brother used to say this to me, it doesn't matter how old you are, it's how good you are. And it's absolutely that. You can have authority being a 25-year-old and selling a luxury property of $6 million, as long as I can trust you and as long as I know you have the authority to help us through this process. I don't care. I shouldn't care is the main thing.
Well, it's the power of being able to influence through either storytelling, product knowledge, those things.
Experience, or the backing of somebody who has done this really well. People come to WHITEFOX because they buy into the brand, they buy into you, and they trust that that's how you've imbued the rest of your staff with all of that, know. So
that's a challenge with... We've got 21-year-old agents, we've got mid-20s agents, we've got, as you said, who don't have the necessary life experience, but if they're qualified to talk about it.
And they have the right attitude, right?
It goes back to the trust thing. If our 21-year-olds went to another agency and they got in the door of a $6 million home, the directors would come in and get the listing and
Take
push them to
over.
the side.
Yeah.
We currently have a 21-year-old that is selling a $6 million house
Yeah.
that they're the
Amazing.
lead agent on because, again, they've built that ability internally to have us trust them. The customers now trusted them. We've got to let them run with it.
Yeah.
Have to.
And they need to trust you and your word, right? You're saying this is what I can provide to you. So it's no use if you go in and you have the safety net of coming in and doing the job for them. They're never going to learn.
Correct.
Or they're always going to have the attitude of Marty's going to come in anyway. So,
I love what your brother said.
you know.
It's not how
Yeah.
old you are, it's how good you are.
Yeah, exactly. He also said something else when he was a bit of a player back then. But I was like, it doesn't mean there's a goalkeeper you can't score. And I was like, oh my God, you can't say those things.
By the way,
So,
as a complete side note to the synergies between the two businesses, Rationale and WHITEFOX. So we know that we currently sit on Turek Road. There's a
Yeah.
Rationale store, which is like 50 metres up the road. So I went online last night just to have a look at where you are. You're in Adelaide, King William Road.
Adelaide, King
Yeah.
William Road,
You're in Perth,
Yeah.
Rockaby Road, Subiaco.
Rockaby Road,
Okay.
Subiaco.
So we have 3 offices in the 3 same
No.
streets.
Fortitude Valley as well.
yes, yep,
Fortitude Valley.
right.
In
There you
James
go.
Street?
Yep,
James Street.
Yeah.
There you go, so 4.
So hold on. That's scary.
It's pretty scary. We've
But
obviously
it's-
picked the right...
Wait, are you on
Right.
the Gold Coast?
We are.
Where?
Pacific Fair Shopping Centre.
Okay.
Not far.
Same suburb.
Okay.
far.
There you
Well,
go.
Mermaid Beach.
Okay.
Your beach.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
I
so
don't think
it-
there was proper
That's
high
crazy.
street in Gold Coast
Yeah,
for us,
there's no-
so that's why.
No, where you could go though is definitely you go around the Oxley.
Okay,
Have a look.
good to know.
New little precinct. We're renovating a shop
On
there at
it.
the moment.
Okay. Yeah.
But the vision was to be in blue chip village feel
Yeah.
locations.
Yeah.
So for us being a digital agency, we've never done print media for our clients. It was that juxtaposition of the digital agency that's got this bricks and mortar presence in the best spots.
Yeah.
And it was balancing, you
Yeah.
know, those two marketplaces.
It's interesting because when Richard started out and the vision for our retail as well was to be in High Street, to be in those village, you know, the first one was Toorak, the other one was Queen Street, Willara. And Queen Street, Willara is amazing for us. It's the tiniest shop and I think we've been looking to expand there to, you know, move into a bigger space for the last 8 years and we still haven't been able to because nothing comes up or... Anyway, whatever. I just want quirky kids to go.
How good's the charm in a small
It's beautiful,
space?
but we have the right clientele there. It's easy for them to get to us. But as soon as we started sort of going out and understanding what our clients were, that's where we started to be a little bit more open about we need to go into Pacific Fair as opposed to only High Street. So we've got a mix of them now, which sort of work for us. But you know, there are a lot of things that we said we would never do, and I think in the last couple of years,
You've done them.
Yeah, there's a conversation between.
So that's what I'm
Richard and
afraid
myself.
of. Things that I've said that we would never do, but as we grow,
Yeah.
we're about to hit 100 staff. Do we do these certain things,
Yeah.
or do we stay true to how it was when there was 7 of us?
Yeah, I think there's always crisis with growth, right? There's a crisis in each stage of growth, and so as you're moving WHITEFOX, you're going to come up to these sort of crises, whether it's collaboration, whether it's, you know, what do you do? You know, a really good example is, you know, one of our clear advertising pitches, and I remember it because I was part of it, was prescribed by doctors, not department stores, and this was very clear, like 2014 or 20 something. That was.
But then you moved to Pacific Fair.
I moved into David Jones.
Oh.
I moved into a department store, you know, and I had really good relationships with some of our doctors and they're like, you said that. I said, yep, but the world changes. We have to meet our client where they are. This will impact your business in a really positive way because we can bring in a new set of clients that have never known that they need to now take the journey towards a doctor. You know, the business was always in an illness sort of space and it's now moved into a wellness space where people will go to see a doctor because they want to maintain, they want to look better as opposed to...
But it all comes back to communication.
Yeah.
How you're communicating with your current clients and your future and finding that happy medium.
Yeah. And even to what we say to our teams, right? Like in terms of... and I guess another catch cry in the last 12 months to my executive leadership team has been we have to have no sacred cows, only cash cows, because we have to be able to put everything on the table in the sense that we've protected so much.
Hey, so talk me through that. I don't understand that saying. I've never heard it before.
Oh no, I just made it up. That's why I smiled because I was like, sounds like a pretty good one.
like a great one.
Yeah, so cows, just cash cows.
I like it.
Because
Hey, so what would it mean though if it was to mean something?
So we have certain tenets to the brand. Like you might say, we might never do X, Y, Z.
Yeah, like like for instance, we've always said, we're never going to franchise.
You're never going to franchise. You're never going to do print media. You're never going to go into shopping centres.
They're the sacred cows.
Those are your sacred cows.
Yes.
But in 5 years, as your business is growing huge and people are knocking at your door going,
It's about
Marty.
the cash cow.
Exactly. So suddenly you weigh up the opportunity, right? Like everything has a trade-off. But so to me, it's about managing through. I know, don't take it.
Oh no, it's gone. Everything in here is actually owned by Marty Fox.
There you go.
Thank you so much.
So and that's the only way to open up our team that has been so good at protecting the brand. Like the one thing our team does really well is brand guardianship. So, we've told them they haven't, we've
Same
never
as us.
discounted. It's key because you can never build that back up. And there's a reason why this brand, Richard has built this brand and it has lasted for 35 years, right? But, I want to make sure that it continues to last.
It's 35 years old.
It's 35 years old. You would not think that because of,
What we see.
Well, what I love about that, 35 years old, but only 2 branding iterations.
Yeah.
It's really cool.
Yeah. And like the mission statement, I mean, it was...
What is the mission statement?
Luminous Skin for Life. It used to be Luminous Skin for a Lifetime. Like that was the iteration. But the branding has changed. But I said to Richard, like, why you started the brand, like that still rings true to what we're doing now. It doesn't have to be changed. Like the tenets around it will shift and the brand positioning has shifted. We started out very medical and we've moved that to more of a luxury skincare positioning, and we want it to occupy space in the market that if somebody said, do you have this? We could say, or if a brand came to us and said, but we have this comparison wise, we can go, but do you have treatments? Do you sell to doctors?
On that, I'd just love to know. So if you don't have a competitor in terms of the way that you sell your product through your 3 main channels, who do you see yourself competing with from a branding and marketing perspective?
I mean, there are definitely competitors that we can benchmark ourselves against.
Who would they
we
be?
take a lot of, Augustina Sparta is probably somebody we would look at from a price point perspective or from the fact that it comes with a bit more scientific knowledge.
And who owns them?
I think they've got a bit of equity. There's the guy, Augustin Sparta, who's a scientist, and then he's got some French financier who owns the brand.
So French company.
Yeah, so...
You need to make it sound French. Everything sounds French.
It sounds better in skincare as well. And then we look at sort of very luxury skincare brands.
They say WHITEFOX in French again?
Blanc.
Renard Blanc.
See, sounds 100 times better.
Hello, Marty Fox from Renard Blanc.
Bonjour.
Like,
Bonjour.
Here's my 6 million. Take
There
it.
you go. 4% commission. Thank you very much.
Très bon.
So no, and then we benchmark around other sort of luxury skincare brands that have a lot more heritage, like La Prairie and La Mer, but
Any Australian-born ones that you see yourselves?
not really. I don't think so.
That
And
must
then
help Rationale though, because it is Australian born.
yeah,
Right?
yeah. But I think we benchmark or what we're trying to do if we're looking for inspiration from a creative, point of view or anything else. It usually we look at fashion brands and things like that. So we like to look at what Louis Vuitton is doing, Hermes, those sort of things, because luxury brands know how to evoke a feeling, people.
And they've got the big budgets to be able to.
And how are you creative enough to take a huge idea, take some inspiration from it and make it fit for purpose?
Well, I heard you say before, and never discount. I know that the big brands, they know where to play in their space.
Yeah.
Like, for example, do you have influencers? Do you use that sort of channel?
We never did traditionally. We've moved into more of a relationship where we have to.
You had doctors.
You
had the actual influencers.
We had advocacy. Yes, exactly right. Thanks, Marty. But we haven't paid anybody to do so because Richard was quite adamant of somebody has to be using the product. So now when we do engage with people of influence, we do. It's a longer time instead of just giving them the product. We do want to make sure they're on a bit of a journey. Sure. They've seen what they can speak from. They can speak from experience. Mm-hmm. It's really hard to do it because everybody is now getting thrown products and this and that. So we have had to play in the space, and this is what I mean. Like, we can't have this sacred cow where we only deal with people that have never will never work with another brand.
Yes.
It's impossible
Well,
to
the
do
audience
so.
will also, the trust there isn't necessarily like if they see Nicole Kidman using Rationale, they'll go, oh, she's just going to give the product for free. She might love it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So we do need people of influence more than influencers that we want to be using. But this is the thing: we have to continue iterating, and we have to continue meeting our client where they need to be met.
Yeah.
But it's a very fine balance, and everything has a trade-off of the decision that you're making. What I do know is that I need to understand what the ultimate goal is, and that I'm building a business that's sustainable to get to that end point as well.
How long have you been CEO now for?
I think 8 years.
There's different
7
online.
years?
There's a couple of different dates matching up.
You do know what? I do know it's sort of around
When
when I
Joe from
got.
accounts had to leave and she jumped into Saturday.
I know.
Yeah, some will count it from there.
Like, was it the feeling of CEO or was it the actual?
Did you get tell us how that happened? How did you become CEO? Because you
So
I was general. I think I was general manager at that stage, and I said to Richard, we do need somebody to come in, and they said, right, put a list together.
Was he the CEO though?
No, he was the founder, managing director.
So always founder.
Yeah.
Never CEO.
I think Richard is really good he'll be the first person to say he's not good at managing. And I have a lot of respect for somebody who can say that and go, this is not where I'm good at. And so we've learned really quickly to make sure that he's always doing the things that he's really good at doing. So right now he's the founder and director of research, because that's absolutely what we need him to do.
Science background.
Yeah, he's the scientist effectively. So he still works in there. He still meets with our research team. And he leaves sort of everything else to us to do. And we obviously speak very often. And so it was around the time where, we pushed. And I think this was 2016. When was the first time Trump got elected? 2016? That's my timeline. We were at a conference somewhere, and I went to Richard and Greg, the founders of the business, and I said, the team have been asking, we've put a number of different profiles in front of you, very, private equity, all these suits effectively.
Have people bought in to Rationale?
2020, we have a major minority stake in the business from a big industry partner. So that happened in 2020.
So they have a major minority stake.
Yeah, so 49%. So Richard and Greg still have 51%.
Hey, Greg. Where's Greg? Who's Greg?
Greg is...
Greg's just been dropped mid-pod.
Greg is the other shareholder. So
Gotcha.
Greg and Richard are live partners and business partners, but Richard is the face of the brand. So Greg does a lot of the back-end stuff, but he's sort of given us a lot of leeway to do the operational side of the business.
Gotcha.
Yeah, so he's still shareholder.
Yeah, and then the 49%, they're a silent investor?
Well, are they silent? We have board meetings. They attend the board meetings. They give us a lot of brand stewardship to do what we want. So they're passive in the sense of they're not.
You've got the creative.
Meeting. Yeah, and that was a very key. It was an important part for Richard and Greg to have that in the business effectively.
And documented appropriately too.
Yeah, and they have let us. They have given us that freedom to do what we need to do. So
and who are they?
Amore Pacific. So they're huge. They're probably the second biggest business behind Samsung in Korea.
Oh wow!
So they're a huge Korean skincare brand. They're probably $6 billion.
Well, I see it all throughout my feeds. How big skincare is in Korea.
Yeah,
they're
it's
the
huge.
leaders.
It's huge. Yeah, they've got a lot of technology. So we've got a good bigger brother, bigger sister to help more from an operational perspective. But they're very.
And how much has that propelled Rationale?
I think it's helped us in the sense of not making as many mistakes when you're going international predominantly. I think that they've opened up some doors. They've helped us more from an operational perspective if we've needed help from a supply chain perspective, especially through the pandemic. That's been really helpful.
And capital.
Yeah, and capital is obviously the biggest part, but everything else, they've really allowed us to do what we've needed to do in terms of how the brand is positioned, the strategy of the brand, going international.
Where was the first international expansion?
The first international expansion was Singapore, and that was during the pandemic. So it was the easiest place for us to be able to get into because of the product readiness. We were ready for the product to.
And what a
be
great
sold
full
there.
circle moment for you as well.
It was really exciting for me to do so,
Yeah.
but also in terms of property, right? Because nobody could fly at that time. Being able to say, I actually know this is where the shops should be, as opposed to in America, like you needed to pound the pavement. We couldn't do that. And being able to build it there, I had my mother sort of going in being like, can you go into tanks and see this?
FaceTiming you through.
I know, Margaret.
Wow.
What's Margaret doing? Margaret's on the floor.
She's the secret shopper.
She's the secret shopper. So that was really interesting. And it was also the coming of Amore Pacific wanting us to go into an Asian country to begin with. So it was the happy medium for us to start there. And America has always been the sites where we want to get into, and we're doing a lot of work. But it's a hard market.
After Singapore?
It was America.
Whereabouts?
LA.
Physical store?
Physical store
Whereabouts?
in Melrose Place.
I actually know the person who's helping you in Polly.
Polly knows everybody.
Hey,
She's a
Shuey
legend.
knows everyone.
She's the best.
No, she's been fantastic. Yeah. So she came on board, and it'll be a year soon, but she's been really great. She's helping us.
How long have you been in the US now?
Probably 18 months. And I think we've had a lot of learnings being in America.
What are those big ones?
The big ones have been the fact that, brand awareness is huge. We've been here for 35 years. We've got a lot of brand equity. We kind of took exactly the playbook that we had here and put it into America.
And it doesn't work?
And it doesn't work, right? So what we have learned is we've had to strip a lot of things back. We've got to go back. The product range that we have, we've got 24 products or 36 products. We now go in with 6 and 6 only. We need to retell the story. We need to re-educate. We have also committed to the doctor. The doctor advocacy is really important there, but building that up, but not having that the hugest thing. We've also invested a lot in online. So we now have relationships with Neiman Marcus, with Saks. We're going into Space & K. We're doing a lot of quite interesting third-party things. We're going into wellness spaces like Soho House and Equinox. They're the right client. It's the right brand partnerships for us to be spreading the word of Rationale, which Polly very much heads up as well.
Has there been have you gone to New Zealand?
No, we haven't. That's actually been on the cards for us to look into because...
Go on the Beach Street Quest.
Hey, come down.
Come have a follow-up conversation
Seriously,
after this.
New Zealand is a great market.
Our GM of Finance has been talking about...
What, Rory stumbles? Our GM of Finance.
No, my GM
yeah,
of
and mine is another Kiwi who forced us to go to New Zealand.
Oh my God. Seriously? George is like... New Zealand.
Yeah,
like,
Rory
what?
is seriously New Zealand, and he's the one that took us.
Okay, well,
God, there's so many. And how many physical stores are there now?
We have 13 or 14.
We're about to open 13.
12.
There you go. Incredible. Yeah.
So strange.
Yeah.
And there's a saturation point when you're doing what you're doing, right? Because you also can't be on every corner at the brand that we have and what we're doing. So it's interesting. It's also knowing when the saturation point here. It's when you can push and then when you have to go geographically to start growing the business. And that's America for us. But it's a money dump. It's a money pit. Like there's so much more you have to do to...
Well, lucky you've got the 49.
The Amore Pacific. We like to show some independence that, we can make our cash work hard.
But it makes it so much easier for expansion. It's not cheap.
The pressure is alleviated
yes.
a little bit. But you also, I don't want to ever lose the hustle of a small business because that's when everybody gets complacent. That's when,
So how do you find that ability to create that hustle? Because, with our expansion, I'm based here in HQ.
Yeah.
I can't tell you, our family holidays now aren't family holidays. I've just had my mum, my wife, my 3 kids all on the Gold Coast whilst we're building content and we're getting the office up and running and we're, finalising finishes in the offices. So, that's that hustle where the founder and CEO is still flying in to rally the troops and bringing people in. Shira flying in, Taylor flying in, Lana. You can't do that into a US market or into a European market. We've been able to do it with New Zealand because it was close, but and it's like if you've read Shoe Dog, the Nike book, it's so
Phil
amazing.
Knight.
And it's just so many synergies, like different scales, but just the mentality of people being able to say, I love this product, service, brand, whatever it might be that you've created, and I'm going to make it my own. Yeah. Finding those people. Yeah. That's the hardest part.
And I think, what you're saying is the true essence of who knows, like WHITEFOX, who knows how Marty will think. And, you found those people, you have those people. And as you said, when the geography is close, you can do that. People can go and they can fly. It starts to become cost prohibitive when you're having them fly to America, right? So for us, It was being able to appoint a couple of people that we truly believed in, had been with the business for a really long time. And
From here?
And
sent them over?
We've put them there. And they're probably our best of the best, right? So we've got 3 of them from different facets.
So then is it nerve-wracking, though,
Yeah.
taking those 3 people out of the core to send them to a speculative marketplace?
But if you don't put your best foot forward with your best players, how are you going to win the championship? You know, so...
You can't recruit those players?
You can, but it's going to take you some time to get them ready and to prep them to play, right? So my viewpoint to that is you have to be able, this is the trade-off, but you have to have enough belief that your business here is strong enough and there are enough people strong enough here. I'm here, you know, our executive leadership team is here, that we can step in to assist where the gaps, and the huge gaps, because, you know, they are really, really important people in our business, but we needed people who were diverse in their skill sets. So, you know, we needed people who could pitch really well, who could do different roles, who could be ambassadors for the brand.
Those 3 people that left, though, how are those positions filled here?
Internally, we restructured as well. So we didn't sort of fill like for like. We really broke apart. Every time somebody leaves the business, I use this as an opportunity to relook and not replace like for like, because you realise the business has grown. And that person had very diverse or very unique skill sets as well. So we didn't replace like for like. And again, the business here is so much stronger. It can withstand that loss as well. And this is where, you know, myself, I step into, you know, different things that they were doing that to bridge that gap until we find the right people. The plan is to have them there to really get them going. They can do multiple roles, and then they can recruit people locally, train them up, and, you know, there's a 3-year plan of where they should be landing as part of their, I guess, long-term strategies, so that they can leave. They have the ability to come back if they want to, or they can stay there depending on what the business needs. But one of their core goals is not only to build the business there, but build a team there. But you can only do that really well when the essence and the DNA of the brand is there as well, right? Because so quickly, when you don't have that core person that knows Rationale, it will get torn apart really, really quickly. We've seen that happen. So you need somebody
Where
who
have you
knows.
seen that happen?
Well, when in Singapore, we had that happen. We did put somebody in there, and then we took him out to send him to America. Kurt has been amazing in terms of, you know, we said, go to Singapore. He's like, great. Go to America. He's like, sure. And when he left Singapore, we did see that disintegrate quite quickly, but we were able to send people to Singapore quite quickly to fill that gap because of distance as well.
I also find that there wouldn't be many CEOs that have your ability to then go back into the seat, get your hands dirty, and get things done. So what gives you that ability to? I think
I care, and I'm intellectually curious to go in. And I think every time you step into a role again, you see things that, you know, if Shura had to go out for a little bit and you stepped into his role, you'll suddenly see an opportunity that he's missed. That probably would never happen. Yeah, exactly. So I use
nothing in the iCal.
I use it as almost an audit sort of function for myself to go in. Like recently I went into a warehouse.
It's not planned, but
It's not planned, but sometimes you just go, you've got to be a team player. So you've got to put up your hand and go, shit, we have nobody to go out and visit our doctors. I'll do it. So I did that quite recently as well.
And does it shock the staff when they see that you're in there?
I think I did that recently. I went into the warehouse and I just literally wanted to pack boxes. I hadn't done it for 2 years. And the team was like, what is she doing in here? And I was like, hey, John, tell me what's going on. I was like trying to talk about footy.
It's like the other thing that's amazing, or are we going broke?
Yeah, exactly. But, you know, like I was able to sort of know how the team worked. I was able to actually go this process. You know, I went back to our creative director.
You can refine it.
Yeah, and I can go, why do we have boxes and why do we have to put this in here? Like, it's double handling, and it's actually, sure, it takes them an extra 20 seconds to do, but 20 seconds over X amount of things means this amount of time. So, you know, or like I was stuffing something into a paper bag once and I was like, why can't we make the bag that we buy like an inch bigger? They're like, oh. I'm like, is it specific to this size? And so you pick up those things when you're not doing it day in and day out, right? When you're doing it day in and day out, you're just like, this is just the grind. So I like doing it because you end up finding out things that people can miss because it's not their fault, but they're just trying to move ahead. They're churning as well. And I think it gives that you always have to have a view of, you know, the balcony and the dance floor. So much of the time your team is spending on the dance floor. They never get to stand on the balcony and look at everything and I'm on the balcony quite a lot, but I do need to get on the dance floor to know what's happening. Like, I do need to go and talk to clients. I want to talk to clients. I want to talk to our staff because I need to know what they're the cold interface with our clients. They're the most important people in our business. So it'd be, mad for me not to want to go into Toorak and talk to the girls there and understand. So that's the mentality. When I parked, I was like, I am going to go into Toorak and do a bit of a high, and everybody would be like, what is she doing?
You should get some BTS film. That would be cool.
But yeah, I think it makes me better at my job, right? If I do these things, so why wouldn't I do these things? And I'm not a traditional CEO. I've never played to that.
What is the traditional CEO?
I don't know. You tell me.
I've got no idea.
Okay, well, there you go. We're in the same boat.
It'd be funny if we actually were and we just didn't know. I don't think we are.
Well, you're founder and CEO. That's the big difference. Is you're working for a founder. And I was curious about
the dynamic.
You're taking Richard's vision.
Yeah.
And Greg's.
You guys are bloody hard founders, let me tell you.
Yeah. Well, he does.
Say that again, sorry.
You're maddening. No. Okay. No, I think there's something really special about founders, right? And I really have understood there is something that Richard will bring to the business that I can never bring to the business. And I see this also with Ethan, with how him and his co-founder run July. There's an annoying part about a founder, but if you can work really well with them, then like beauty happens. The synergy is right when you get the right professional.
Well, it's like being a step parent in a way, I feel.
Exactly.
You can be an incredible step parent, but you just really need to understand the history. And if you do, then it's happy days. Sometimes the step parent can be a far better parent than the actual parent.
Exactly. And I think it's about Richard understanding and having the trust as well that I care about this as much as he does. Like, I want to see this succeed as much as he does, so.
And that's obviously through actions, not words. And you've shown
absolutely.
That you care.
And it is about the decisions we make. It's about the conversations we have. It's about me being able to have an honest conversation and not be a yes man. I think that's the other part, right? Like, it's easy for me to be able to turn around and blame or say, well, the founder wanted this to happen, so we just did what they wanted. But it also takes a lot of, it's important for me to be able to stand up and say, look, this is not the right thing. I don't agree with it because of X, Y, Z. Or we can't have sacred cows anymore. We need to put everything on the table to be able to view. Like, I think he respects that. It's not an easy conversation between us by any means, but
it's an honest one.
It's an honest one, and it's a dialogue that needs to happen. And I have the right temperament, I think, to have that. I'm not a hot-headed person. I don't get into arguments. I'm quite practical in the sense of, let's break this down. So Richard and I have good conversations around it as well.
Do you road test conversations on Ethan? In the sense that he's a founder, he gets it.
Yeah, but like he's on the other extreme, where he's like, that's stupid. And I was like, oh, God, like he never takes my side. Okay, I can tell you that for a fact, so I've stopped doing it.
Sure.
But I have a much higher appreciation for what's going through a founder's perspective. And when I think I'm being really reasonable about whatever topic, he's like, but this I can see this guy's perspective. Like, can you really?
I think the big difference is there's a heightened emotional connection to everything.
Yeah.
From the founder
absolutely
to the brand.
Well,
it's an extension of yourself.
Become an idea,
yeah.
right?
And it's an extension of yourself. And I said this to Richard. I said, you feel so strongly about us trying these new strategies because I understand Rationale represents you. Rationale is an extension of you. So you don't want the brand bastardized. You don't want the brand to... I get it. I truly get it. But this is the other side. So can you come with me on this journey so I can show you this side? And this is what will happen if we don't do X, Y, Z. So the most I can do is put your best foot forward.
I think every founder needs that, where you say, if you do this, this is what will happen. If you don't do it, this is what will happen.
Yeah.
A founder, for me, I always want to see what are the
both
two
sides.
What are the two opportunities? What are the two outcomes? And which one's actually going to be better long term?
Yeah. And I think, like from your perspective, you're a very charismatic leader. You're a very charismatic founder and CEO as well. So people can get into the trap of not telling you what they think. They want to tell you what you want to hear. And that's probably where that trap will be set, where everybody will just be like, yep, Marty, that's a great idea, as opposed to actually. So Richard...
Well, that's the hard thing with expansion. So interstate, I find that I will be protected from bad news when I actually need
to hear.
I need the bad news because it's never a smooth takeoff.
Yeah.
Expansion, it is hectic to try and get to the altitude where it's safe.
Yeah.
And
but
the
if it's
last
easy,
thing-
everybody would do it, right?
exactly. But these JV partners, they want to do everything right, but they don't understand that it's actually impossible.
Yeah.
It's impossible for me to launch a business without hiccups.
Yeah.
Let alone interstate with people that have never done it before.
Yeah.
So they think that it's an issue if there's hiccups, when no, that is healthy.
Yeah.
Like, you were meant to have these speed humps when you're launching a company.
Yeah.
And for me, I just want full transparency. But sometimes you can't get it all because
you can't. And I think, you have to set up a system of trust. And Richard and I have this where we have to face the brutal facts. So it's like we talk about the brutal truths, and that's for us to be really honest. But it's in a fairly safe space where you can react and talk about whatever you want, and it's not
the team don't need to understand.
No, exactly.
But the parties involved should.
The parties need to. And I think the other thing is, you're talking about launching something and there are going to be hiccups. Like, we strive so much for perfection, it gets in the way of just doing it. And Rationale used to do that. It had to be perfect. I would check the color of the carpet of, the whatever was going into this, like the different color paints. It's like, let me have a look at it. I'm like,
progression
we can get it done.
over perfection.
We just need to get it done, get a minimum, viable product out there, and we can iterate as well. And, I listened to something recently where Mark Zuckerberg was talking about, and this hit so true in the current sort of stage that I'm in. He's like, you learn, you're talking about winning and you want to win more, but you learn the most when you're losing, because you change course really quickly. You know what the pain points are, and you want to then get back to the course of winning. So your biggest growth and your biggest learning will come from losing. And I think that, for me right now, is really, really important for our team to hear, for everything else to go. Everything's peachy keen when you're winning and you can win more. But when you're losing, that really shows resilience. It shows.
But also
agility.
when you're winning, that's when everyone else behind you is doing everything in their power to try and catch you.
Exactly.
So you're the most vulnerable when you are in that situation.
Yeah.
When you're feeling like things are on top,
true.
you're just one move away from finding yourself in a situation where you need to try and get back on course.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think
I love the comeback.
It's great. It's good. And it's, you do, I think, and that's when the hustle comes in. When you're losing, you then find out the agency of each person.
So where does your hustle come from? Is that your upbringing, or
it's a bit of that? It's a bit internal. It's a bit like, it's good to have a serial entrepreneur husband who's been doing it and seeing that happen as well. Like, I sometimes sort of go, can we do a little bit of the July thing where it's a little bit sort of, cowboy, but with a bit more guardrails to it. I think seeing other brands do it in that way is really important. It's not always perfect. It's not always the most money, the most capital, the most, people and resource as well. And I think I get bored. I get bored when everything is pretty and everything is perfect. You need a bit of grit. You need a bit of things going off kilter for me to feel like, let's get back. I don't work in chaos. I don't like working in chaos, but a little bit of the upendedness of things happening makes everybody just sort of right, and
it's healthy knowing that you don't have enough hours in the day to get your shit done.
Yeah. And you then have to prioritize, and you then hustle to either get the important things done. And I think it helps with your team as well. It sort of very quickly gives you a really good sense of who's right in certain roles as well. So I think that's
It would
wonderful.
be interesting to having your husband in here.
It'd
be so.
No, then you'll like it much more than I.
I don't know. This is up there with one of my favourite ever chats.
It'd be great, but you'd be different. This is the thing that would be beautiful.
Yeah.
You would definitely be different. I think that
Well, you just had Charlotte and I talking, and for the first time in 8 years,
Oh my gosh.
he sat Charlotte and I
Both of you down.
and it was really
great.
interesting.
But so, is it a 2-for-1 deal? Like, do we get Athan now? Because we
I don't know.
That'd be a great.
I need some luggage anyway.
I heard him. We were sitting down in this sidetrack really quickly, and we were both sort of pitching our stories a little bit. And it was the first time I had heard him pitch his story and the brand. And I literally, in front of people we did not know, I was like, "That's pretty impressive." Did not if I didn't know, I'd be like, "That's pretty impressive."
Well, because July came out of nowhere. It just
Came out of nowhere.
It became huge. He's got a July bag in the room next door.
Is it
amazing.
Is it called July because of that being the month for holidays?
Sure.
Is that
No, it is. It is. It's two parts. I think. Actually, I don't know. I'm now making things up.
make it up?
No, it is the
Well,
time where
Nathan when he's
most
on.
people travel, I
Yeah.
think, because in Australia and then everywhere else. I think part of it is our first daughter was supposed to be born in July and then she was born on the 28th of June.
Did you call her July?
registered. Pardon?
Did you call her July?
No.
What's her name?
Asha. So not very far from it. Asha. And yeah, so I think it was supposed to do with something to do with that, but I think it's definitely when people travel.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
That's a much more romantic
But simple
story.
name, you let it, like, I think it's great.
Yeah. No,
Very
it's
simple
done
name.
well.
Good name.
It's done well.
Look, we could talk for a long time, to be honest
Yeah.
with you.
So we didn't do anything you wanted
didn't
us
any
to
of the
do,
stuff that I
right?
thought, we got off topic.
And you need to see your team and get back on the dance floor.
Exactly.
Get off the balcony.
I got to get on the
But
dance
it's a great
floor.
story. I have to say, thank you for sharing with us, and you know, testament to the ability to kind of go in and, as you said, roll your sleeves up, learn a business. For anyone
Yeah.
out there, like, learn a business, and from the ground up, you never know. Like, you became CEO within 4 or 5 years, whatever
Yeah.
it was, crazy, and taken on a new trajectory, which is
Yeah.
awesome. You're also a great spokesperson for the brand because your skin's
oh.
amazing. Like, if you came in here with pimples, we'd be like, hang on a
know,
second.
I know.
And then I
Something's
felt
going
guilty because I was
on.
like, Shuey, I mean, this is awkward because I haven't washed my face for like 10 years.
I'm like, wash your face. Actually, I did want to ask you.
I just use water in the shower.
I do want to ask
Okay.
you just a
What?
couple of minute question.
Yes.
Men, because men and skincare is just it's the
Yeah.
biggest challenge for brands, I think,
Yeah.
because men don't do it
Yeah.
on the whole.
Yeah. Fair
But
enough.
my wife
fair
has
enough.
a routine.
Yeah,
Yes.
And
Jem
it's
has a routine.
hectic.
It's hectic.
Yeah.
But I'm in, I'm out.
I mean, Ethan's
and
married to the CEO of
Yes.
Rationale,
He
and
probably doesn't
he's
wash his face, yeah.
pretty much on the same part. Like, he has one thing that
So
he
did you
does.
ever look at? Should we get? Like, I guess you're not targeted to women. You are a skincare brand. Anyone can use it.
I think it's more so for men particularly. It's just getting them to do one thing, and
Yes.
like, if you're going to the Gold Coast, put some sunscreen on me. Like,
I'm afraid of sunscreen. Isn't it
He's
cancerous?
going to kill him.
I think it's going to kill me.
I know. I know.
all right. Do you know what? I know you have no time whatsoever. I'm going to make
Send
it
him
go
some
in,
stuff.
and
Yeah.
we're going to have somebody look at your skin.
Okay.
Our skincare is amazing. It's recent. Anyway, I don't need to
Yes.
do the speed.
No,
I
send him in,
promise.
send him in.
I promise.
Just use some
No,
sunscreen.
but I need to because
You just need some sunscreen.
Do you ever see Danae in the office?
Yes, I do. I
used to
do.
work with us.
I know, and that's how.
This is
yes.
the connection. This is the
No,
connection.
Danae's beautiful and amazing,
Oh, she's
and
the best.
Just
you know,
married and all that
just
stuff,
married,
yeah.
and
Her skin
so
will be looking nice and glowy coming back from.
stunning. I think she's back this week, actually. So,
But you're right. It's a friend of mine who looked into getting into a men's skincare line. He's like, it's just getting a guy to do one thing. Wash your face in the shower.
Yeah.
I actually go in the shower every day and I wash my body. Why the
Yeah.
hell wouldn't I wash my face?
yeah, and it's just, let's put the cleanser in there.
Hey,
for you.
and this is the only part that's not protected with
front
clothing.
facing, yeah.
This is
Yeah.
the one that's copying all the dirt and shit.
Exactly. It's just so ridiculous. But yeah, anyway.
You're doing my work for me. Like, I can just,
With it.
like, I'll put the breadcrumbs
Don't
down.
worry, yeah,
He'll take it and run with it.
Couple pigeons going
I
for it,
know.
aren't we?
But, you know, as a mother of three, CEO of a huge business, driving to Kyneton 3 times a week. I mean, credit to you for coming and having an hour with us. Like, that's awesome. So we really
It was
appreciate
nice coming the other way.
Yeah, true. Well, you're welcome
today.
anytime. So thank you very much for coming.
No,
in
thank
and
you for
sharing
having
so
me. It was
much.
really interesting. It was really exciting to chat, not to follow anything. Sorry, Shura.
No.
I should apologise as
Yeah,
well.
sorry for
It's the
taking
way it
it.
goes. It's the way it goes. We like it. So
Fantastic.
Amazing story.
Thank you. Thank
check
you.
out
Thank
Rationale
you so
Skincare
much.
if you haven't. Go into a store. They are really pretty special. Even if you just want to walk through and have a look and
know,
smell,
come on
they
in.
always smell amazing.
Yeah.
I'm coming in.
There you go. Biggest testament.
I see Marty in there
He's
too.
going to be our next
Are there treatments
spokesperson.
across the road?
Yeah.
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 I'm there.
Yeah.
All right,
You can do it while you're on the phone to somebody, selling
After the
property. Yeah, exactly.
Good luck with the
Thanks so much.
expansion.
Thank you. Thank you.